What's the smallest amount of power you've ever seen go to someone's head? Story 1. I used to work at a grocery store. There was a cashier that was promoted to an office lead, and within 5 minutes started calling people up to his office to chew them out about bullshit non-issues. Then within 30 minutes started telling all the other cashiers that they were all scanning and bagging too slow. Then within an hour told all the baggers they needed to bag faster and make sure that the number of carts in the store, which they were responsible for taking back in, needed to never drop down under a ridiculous amount. On his first day, the store manager saw him causing strife and pissing off every single employee he talked with, and took his promotion away and told him to get back on a register. Everyone gave him shit about it for the entire rest of the time I was there, which was at least a year. Reminds me of the time I was working in a newly opened franchise coffee shop. We had an admittedly ineffectual manager, but a pretty good team overall. There was one kid, let's call him Billy, who had problems. He was off and a little slow. He had a prominent scar from his childhood, which was very noticeable. It wasn't from brain surgery. He'd just fallen through a plate glass window. But he was the nicest person you could ever meet. He was a theology student. We knew from the get-go that we'd be covering for him, and we were all, most of us apparently, pretty much okay with it. This wasn't going to be his career, and like I said, he was a really nice guy, and fun to talk Star Wars with. Then about a month after we opened, one of the co-workers decided to take him out into the cafe area for a sit-down meeting and tell Billy that he really needed to step up his game if he wanted to still work there. This co-worker who did this had absolutely no authority to do this, and the rest of us were furious. For a couple of weeks, poor Billy looked like a kicked puppy and lost almost all of what little confidence he had in his job. Story 2. A graduate of a culinary school got a job at the nursing home I worked at. Attempted to be the next Gordon Ramsay, without the sexy accent, eventually got fired for verbally abusing the waitstaff and having tantrums in the kitchen that were overheard by the elderly residents with hearing problems. That's just sad. She thought she wouldn't get fired. Ha, I say. I reported her, along with 5 residents. She must have never seen his British shows. Normally he's super nice and only yells at people if they really have done something horrendously bad or stupid. On his American shows, he just screams and swears at people until they do better. Story 3. There was a guy on Tribal Wars. He had a tribe with 3 members, and always talked to them like he was a president or something. He even made serious plans on what to do if the tribes around them attacked. He sent diplomatic messages with a goddamn signature, and he wanted to be called king by the 3 poor souls in the tribe. It was me, and I still cringe. Story 4. Small town zoning boards. Honestly, with a county population of 6,000, we really don't need a board that meets monthly. I needed one little stamp approval, and had to wait till they opened up the floor at the end of the meeting. For an hour, I had to listen to these guys discuss visual barriers on a commercial AC unit. They also spent half an hour discussing a concrete median versus the concrete triangular thing to prevent left turns into a parking lot. It seems someone thinks too many cars are holding up traffic trying to turn left. The guys were idiots. Our town only has 2 stoplights, which only blink red. I have never seen anything resembling a traffic jam, outside of one street closure due to a house fire. Story 5. Used to work at a seafood store. We had hired a new kid, and one of the guys was showing him how to skin a salmon fillet. Next day, we're working together. Lady orders salmon, asks me to skin it. I was taught how to skin salmon way before he started working there. I grab the fillet knife, and as I'm about to make the cut, the kid walks over, pulls the knife from my hands, which on its own is very dangerous, and takes the fish over to his side and says, "Give me that. Let the experienced cutter do the job." Small clarification. This woman was a repeat customer and liked how clean my cuts were, and I was always glad to help her. I ask the kid, "What the hell was that about?" And he tells me that, "You didn't receive training from the manager, so you're not good enough at cutting salmon." You bet your ass the manager heard about that. The lady also called in a complaint about it. Story 6. I was 22 and at a new job. This old biddy, who wasn't my boss, came to me to say I was dressed inappropriately because I was dressed too professional. She talked down to and acted like a complete bitch to all her staff. Within 4 years, I was managing her job plus another department, and she was demoted to my old job. was truly grand. Story 7. When I was in basic training, the drill sergeant would appoint a couple of guys to be platoon guides or PGs. They're basically assistants in the unit, meant to help ensure that everyone's bunks and lockers were squared away, etc. Once these two guys got picked, they went power crazy. I mean, you would have thought they were promoted to command sergeant major by the way they were acting. They lasted about a week before a full-scale mutiny by the platoon forced the drill sergeant to appoint new PGs. Story 8. When I was 11, I was appointed head student librarian of my primary school's library, and it went right to my head. I was tasked with training up and then testing the next year of student librarians over lunch breaks. I had to teach them the very simplified version of the Dewey Decimal System the library used, and library etiquette for if other students wanted to check out a book over lunches. Very basic stuff. It went to my head in a very large way, and I was convinced no one else would do as good a job as I did, and the test I devised for the next year's librarians was unnecessarily harsh and difficult. I started including obscure facts and riddles with the questions to prove that no one was suited for the next year's head librarian role. One of the actual librarians had to step in and give my power-hungry 11-year-old self a talking to, and showed me a test she had put together herself that I had used from then on to stop all of the student trainees coming out with about 0-10 from my evil test. Story 9. I used to have a job at a retail store. Employees who were good with customers and didn't fuck up got a $1 raise and a red vest. Those who wore red vests were basically the assistant manager's assistant. One girl got the vest and went absolutely crazy with it. Due to previous disagreements, she started to use this newfound power to make my job hell. She'd make passive-aggressive attempts to impede my progress and add to my workload. Story 10. It happened to me. Long ago when I worked at a Burger King, the door to the freezer was busted, and you had to open it an exact right away, or it was going to fall off the hinges altogether. This only lasted one night, so the owner gave me the key to it, showed me the special way to open it, and told me to just let people in and out. I declared myself the keymaster, and demanded people do things for me for the right to enter my frozen kingdom. After a few hours, they held me down and took away my key. Story 11. When I was starting high school, my school hired someone new to be the new head of school security. He was such an asshole. He hates kids, and he had nothing better to do than harass students. He always thinks everyone is up to no good. He would search lockers without any probable cause, accuse students of being high with no evidence. He would stop students in the middle of the halls between classes and talks to them, to the point where they're late for class, then write them up for being late for class. And he seems to ostracize black students more than any other group. Eventually, the school board fired him because of all the complaints from pissed-off students and parents.